to order, please. Madam Clerk, may we have roll call?
Dale Schlueter.
Here.
Jesse Betcher.
Here.
Tweed Schuman.
Here.
Stacy Hessel. Here. Jason Weaver.
Here.
Mark Helwig. Absent. Tom Duffy. Here. Marshall Savitsky.
Here.
Brian Bizinet.
Here.
Michael Maestri.
Here.
Chris Rusk.
Here.
John Righeimer.
Here.
Ron Kinsley. Ron Buckholtz.
Present.
Ed Peters.
Here.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And Mr. Helwig did call in tonight, so we acknowledge his absence. Let the record indicate we have a quorum. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, certification of compliance with open meetings law, Madam Clerk.
This meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. Number 5, meeting agenda has been presented. Number 6, 2023 budget presentation and discussion. Mr. Markren,
All right, thank you.
could you introduce yourself, sir, to the audience and so they know who you are?
I'm Michael Marker, and I'm the new finance director. I just started in July.
Thank you, sir.
So, all right, can you pull it up? So I have prepared a presentation. First, I'll just start with some highlights. We had a very good net new construction this past year, 1.169%, which is the highest it's been in the 13 years of the data that I could find. That equated to about $120,000 to our budget. Sales tax continues to grow, and that's also added to our budget. And one thing I'm going to talk about a little later, we've normally done a, I can move this. Oh, it's okay. I'm sorry. This time of year, we usually do a capital improvement debt issue. Our bond council is recommending rolling that into the second round of bond issue for the courthouse for completion of that. So that won't be happening in December like it normally does. There are 6 levy limit exemptions that we could use. We currently use 4 of them. Those are bridge and culvert, construction and repair, countywide EMS or ambulance, payments to public libraries, payments to any general obligation debt, and 2 that we haven't been using are property and casualty insurance premiums. Those can be issued outside of the limit, and then also court-ordered placements. We have not done that yet. We are recommending in this budget to take advantage of the insurance premiums to put those outside the levy limit. Our unaudited general fund balance right now, as of December 31st of 21, is just under $8 million. That's the unassigned fund balance. We also have assigned and encumbered. That's well above the board's standard of 20 to 30% of operating expenditures. This next slide kind of goes through the general fund, the different departments. I know it's a little bit hard to read. The general is really just a transfer to other funds, mostly Health and Human Services. The other ones I'd like to point out, there was a position an accounting position in the Highway Department that had been talked about for a few months that we brought in centralized. So we have that moved from highway to under finance, and that's worked out well. And we're gonna go help the highway this next week a little bit too to get them caught up. But it's been a good position to kind of bring everything in and help all the departments. So that's worked out well. IT's asked for an increase. That is due to some server upgrades, but mostly for security, where we don't want to be exposed to ransomware, where someone could come in, hack us, shut down our whole system. So we're looking to upgrade that. Building maintenance, a position was added. Actually, it's already been added from last year's budget to the proposal for next year. And then also, just with the expansion, I know it's not going to cost a lot of money, but we're adding quite a few square feet. So we did bump up our utilities and other expenses that will probably increase due to that. The sheriff did request 4 positions. We would have loved to fund all four. We're recommending 2 of those 4. We didn't feel we could handle all 4 of the positions. And then we also looked at salaries for them to bring them up to market. I know Rose did a lot of work looking at area counties and seeing if we're in the ballpark, and we were a little low. And then same with ambulance service. We looked at salaries throughout EMTs and all of those positions, and we were a little low there too. So we're recommending some increases there. If you want to flip to the next slide, Alex. This is kind of a carried on the general fund, but also then human services, debt service, capital improvements, highway, and the other funds. What I want to point out here is that capital improvements looks like it's going down a lot. Well, last year's budget, or this year's budget included as if the courthouse was completed. It will not be, so some of those expenses are carried into next year. That's why that number is going down. And then also under other funds, we received all of our ARPA money, about $30.2 million in 2022. We're not spending it all this year, so a lot of those expenditures are actually from ARPA money that will carry over into next year, where we'll use that money to do some improvements. A lot of that has gone to broadband service for the more remote areas in Sawyer County. And then at this point, the county board has designated some to finish the courthouse. So then looking at the proposed county levy, the operating levy is just getting a small increase. Debt service is going up quite a bit. That's due to our repayments for the courthouse will actually start in 2023, and it won't be completed until 2023. And then the special purpose levy, that includes things like the ambulance, the libraries, and culverts. All those things that I mentioned are outside of the normal levy. And that bigger increase is due mostly to the ambulance that I mentioned earlier. So the total levy is going up just under $1 million. If we want to flip to the next slide, we'll look at how the levy is calculated. So you start with last year's operating levy, and then you add back personal property aid to give us our base for 2023. And then we're able to add that net new construction, which like I said, is right around 120,000. Our increases in our debt service payments over the previous year are 535, and then you have to back out that personal property aid again. It probably made more sense if that varied year to year. It does not. It's the same every year, so it goes in, comes out. And then last year there was a unused levy of just over $2,000, so I would recommend putting that back in to give us our new base of $11,833,000. So that is our operating, and then you go into the ones that are special purpose. So the library is $340,000, the culvert is just under $100,000, EMS operating is $1.5 million, and then the CIP for ambulance only is $223,500, and that's for a new ambulance and then some IV equipment.
And Mike, that library one is for all the libraries totaling $340?
Correct. Yep.
Thank you.
So that brings us again to that levy of $14 million. Can look at last year's and then also the increase, which I mentioned. The next slide kind of shows where we started with our requests from our departments and outside organizations. And then I've got a list of where we were able to trim some money to get it down to more of a manageable levy level that we thought we could go forward with. We ended up having a lot of savings in health insurance. The budget originally called for a 10% increase, which has been fairly typical for what it's been the last few years. We've had some pretty good utilization ratios of what we spent versus what premiums are. We've been pushing back really hard on our insurance company right now to get that down. Right now we've got in the budget 4%. We're actually down to a 2.5% renewal, so that's pretty good in this environment. Because if with just cost of care being 6 to 8%, if you get the same claims from one year to the next, it's going to cost 6 or 8% more just because cost of care goes up. So to get it down to 2.5 was pretty good.
Mike, and we received that health insurance savings without raising the deductible?
Yeah, that's the plan design is exactly the same.
Great.
So that's all good. Good for our staff.
Yep.
Good for everybody. I mentioned property and liability, looking to do that outside of the limit. And then also the two positions that the sheriff asked for that we felt we weren't able to fund are in there. And then a couple of these other ones I'll talk about later. Looking at the next slide, the levy components, the general fund makes up just under half of the total levy. Health and Human Services, about 21%. Some other small ones, debt services, about 14.5% now with the cost of the courthouse. And then another breakdown of the special purpose levies, which I've talked about. The bottom line is the proposed mill rate would go from 3.26 in 2022 down to 3.09 for 2023. So that's good news. The ambulance service levy breakdown is the next slide. It starts with our basic operating levy or operational costs outside of what we charge people who use the service. And then the next line is indirect and allocated costs. And you might be wondering what that is. Most of that is central service functions that we are able to, we hire a company to come in and calculate what each department uses out of that. And the reason we do that is a lot of HHS, child support, they can get aid on that amount that we allocate. So that's why we go through all that work. And then even beyond that, ambulance is allowed to levy that above the, our normal levy limit. And then I've got the ambulance in here again, the IV pumps that they asked for credit for an anticipated sale of the ambulance to come up with. That's total ambulance levy of $1.7 million. And that levy rate is going up a little bit from 3.47 to 3.8 per thousand, 38 cents per thousand. Or no, 3.8 cents per thousand. So then the next slide is library service, and I've got all of them listed here again. I apologize, this is a little hard to see. I'm gonna take 100% responsibility for this one. At the point I had to put this to publication about 2 weeks ago, the information I had was looking at the history, the board had always given the Hayward Library $200,000. Last year, they asked for $210,000, with $10,000 of that due to a donor that said he would, or he or she would give the money if it was matched by the county. I think we all thought that was in perpetuity. At the time I put this publication, I found out it was not in perpetuity, so I took the $10,000 off, you can blame me, to put it back down to the $200,000 that it had typically been. What you can also see on the side is our state formula that we're required to fund our in-county libraries at. So Hayward is 122,645. The recommendation is 200,000. Winter is just under 2,000. We're recommending 78,000. In Ojibwe Community Library, from what I could tell, they've always been at what is the state statute, and that's just over 20,000. The ones outside of the county we're all recommending that we fund them at our state statute requirement, which is about just under $18,000. So again, that would be that total of $340,000 that I had mentioned earlier. So then moving to outside organizations, which is the next slide. I'll go through these one by one. Sawyer County Fair, we've typically funded at $45,000. They put in a request for $50,000, but in their paperwork, they actually only spelled out expenses of $47,000. So that's what I'm putting forward to the board, is that $47,000. The next one is Senior Resource Center. And this one is net of the flow through grant that we get, that's about $80,000. So they came forward, last year the county funded them, net of that grant at $105,000. Their request was for $146,577. That's a 40% increase. So in looking at that, we thought we would meet them kind of in the middle at that $120, $111. That looks like a funny amount. With the grant that flows through us, a $200,000 contribution in total. Hayward Lakes and Visitors Convention. I know this one's been talked about a fair amount too. That's typically been funded at $50,000. Last year from the general fund, it went down to $10,000, but then that other $40,000 was in the end funded through ARPA funds to keep it at $50,000. So we're recommending just continuing on with that $50,000. Northwest Regional Planning asked for a small increase, Economic Development Corporation asked for the same, they always have. Nemogahgan Transit did ask for quite an increase. For about 11 years, they've been funded at $150,000. They did request $175,000. That's a big increase in 1 year. Recommendation is $155,000 or a $5,000 increase. Clean Sweep and ITBCC both have asked for what they always ask for. The next slide simply goes through the statutory authority of where each of these come from. I'm not going to spend time on that. The next one is the CIP. Even though we're not going to be issuing debt in December as we usually do, we will want to approve this so that we can issue the debt in March, coinciding with the bond issue for the courthouse. If you want to go to the next slide, this is really just a summary. The next slide lists item by item what the request has been. I won't read through all of these. They're fairly typical what they've been in the past. The total debt issue from the capital purchases would be 1.36 million. It was 1.3 this year, so it's pretty much in line with what it typically has been. And then the next slide is debt service. And again, this is hard to see. Our payments for this coming year are 1.724 million, as I mentioned before. What I did then is laid out the next 5 years of what the debt service would be remaining, and then I took the accumulation of the last 14 years, put it in one line. The one thing I want to mention with this is the current debt that's issued. As you know, we've issued CIP for the last few years. That would continue on in the future, which would actually get our debt service payments just under $2 million. And that, I believe you've been shown that from PMA in the past, the trajectory of that. So if we continued on with the debt issues that we've done in the past, the repayment would go up about $200,000 next year and then level out at that until the courthouse would be paid off. And then the final slide I have is just a tax rate history for Sawyer County. And you can see we've typically been right around $3 per thousand, a little bit over, a little bit under. 3.09 would actually be the lowest it's been since 2016. So that's good news. So that is all I have for my presentation.
Mr. Alvarado, do you have something to add, sir?
Yeah, the other items that are included in the budget discussion, the draft Sawyer County fees and payments by department for 23 is included. This document's adopted annually by the board. Includes the changes are highlighted. This includes a mix of proposed increases and then also some fees that have already changed but were not updated in the document. Like the booking fee in the jail has been 25. It was not updated in here. The zoning fees that are in here are already in place as of the first of the year, but they were not adopted in this document or approved in this document. Dog pound is a proposed increase of the boarding fee, and the land information office, we omitted a lot of fees there that just aren't applicable anymore because we don't deal in some of the mediums that they used to store their data on. And in land information, the reason we renamed the document to include payments is that land information does pay out money for remonumentation. They're essentially bounties. If a private surveyor is doing work in an area and locates a county corner monument that needs repair or replacement, we'll pay them a fee to do that while they're doing that work. So we put those payments in here as well.
Did you want to look at forestry?
Yeah, I went through with the departments, and these are the changes I received. We're able to make changes mid-year. We just try to adopt this document with the budget so that there's a starting point first of the year.
Okay. capital summary list, do you have that for 23?
Mike went through that as part of
Okay.
his budget
And
presentation.
your 2023 employee count.
So this is adopted as well with the budget to show the employee count. Not a ton of changes overall in the net. Let me get down to it here. So as Mike mentioned, there was a request for additional positions in the sheriff's office. This includes the 2 additional positions. They're under the sheriff, and also includes, there was a position that was partially funded through a tribal law enforcement grant that we're not anticipating remaining funded by that grant. So that position's moved into the overall sheriff's budget. This indicates the increase in staffing in the finance office, or actually it's in administration under finance, and the reduction of that same position in the highway department. There was a reduction in here in the Register of Deeds office that's already occurred earlier in 2022, so this reflects that update as well. So it's a small increase of FTE equivalent of 202.9 to 203.3.
Great. Is that everything, Andy?
That's everything that's in the packet. There is one thing that's listed, is the 2023 pay grid. Normally this would be adopted with the budget. I don't think we'll be able to do that this year. That establishes our wage ranges and position levels with any across the board increases that we anticipate. We have budgeted money within the overall budget as essentially a lump sum to accommodate wage increases or wage adjustments. I am not prepared to move ahead with a recommendation on an across the board because we have not even started negotiations with the union. And I think that we want to get that settled before we look at the rest of the positions in the county. That'll drive a lot of that. So that may be something, and in all honesty, we received dates today finally for negotiations, and they aren't till later in November. So it'll be after the budget's already adopted. Not the way we'd like to do it, but we'll have to come back after the budget's adopted with the pay grid and wage adjustments.
Sure. All right, thank you. So that concludes the budget presentation. I want to thank you, Mr. Marker and Mr. Alvarado, for all your work on that. Really appreciate it. That moves us then to number 7, public hearing on the 2023 budget. Entertain a motion to go into public hearing for the 23 budget. Mr. Kinsley? Okay, second by Mr. Buckholz. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, Mr. Alvarado, do you want to explain our process with the public hearing on the budget?
Yeah, this is the time for the public comment on the budget. A number of people have turned in their public hearing forms requested to speak. So this will only be on the budget. We'll do, when the budget hearing is closed and we're past the budget, onto the regular board meeting, there'll be another public comment period for all other things.
Right. So if you're here to speak on the budget, I have a list of folks here, and if you, people that came in late, if you want to fill out a form to speak, they're right in the back of the room, okay? So then we'll start. We'll give everyone 3 minutes, please, and we'll start with Heather Wally. Heather Wally, please. State your name and address, ma'am, please.
Sure. Heather Wally, 15969 West 4th Street here in Hayward. Just wanted to add my 2 cents worth in about the library and the $10,000 reduction in the budget from last year. I do not have children, but plenty of my friends have children, and they love that library. They love everything, all of the extras, the Lego club, all the take and make, all of that kind of stuff. Those kids live for that stuff. And I know in other places that I've lived, it's very important for the city or the town to have their folks that have grown up here and maybe graduate high school here and then go off to college. It's always great when they come back and they want to reintegrate into their home. But a lot of people are not going to do that if the library is not going to be suitable for their children. And so I would just like to see that we can try to keep this money where it needs to be in the library, and we can try to keep the kids' programming up and running.
Thank you. All right, next is Ann Larson, please. Ann Larson.
Ann Larson, 14274 W. Christensen Road. I'm the Assistant Director at the library. Some people may think that libraries are only for checking out books, but our library has many services that are not offered elsewhere in the county. We are a community center with groups playing mahjong, seniors playing cards, resource for meetings like for the 4-H, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Historical Society, supervised visits even with their children. The library is a central meeting area for different agencies and companies in the northwest of Wisconsin. We are a free Wi-Fi and printing haven for many people who can print straight from their phone or laptop or from our public computers. We help people fill out job, passport applications, and we are an office and school space for many locals and visitors. This past winter, the Guadalupe winner had an interview online for a full college scholarship. He came over right after he won. He barely changed, did the interview, and later his family let us know that they were very grateful because he did win the full scholarship. Schools in the area also frequent the library. We have a special relationship with Northern Waters Environmental School, where they created a prairie restoration on the grounds. The following schools visit us throughout the year. Kindergartners, even from Hayward School District, LCL Schools, FACE Program, and the Northern Lights Christian Academy. Our trails are used by athletic programs like Berkey Kids. A big draw, of course, is our summer reading program. This program not only has local children attending, but we have many visitors who attend. We have many grandparents who are summer residents whose visiting grandchildren attend. Visitors and locals also borrow movies because they can't afford to have cable or streaming programming, either by choice or because internet is not available in their area. Other activities we have throughout the year include 1,000 books before kindergarten, Lego clubs, scavenger hunts, take and make kits, and much, much more. We partner with other agencies for children's and families programming. One is our weekly story time with Northwest Connection Family Resources. Story time is a great opportunity to introduce children to a structured environment and interaction with other children and a support system for the parents. Just the other day, a grandmother came in and participated in story time with her granddaughter, who was around 4 years old. She said that was the first time the granddaughter had come into a library, and she was sad and crying because she had to leave. The grandmother was also surprised that the granddaughter's first book choice was Unicorns Fart Rainbows.
Okay. Okay, we got to kind of wrap it up here, ma'am.
Pardon?
We're getting close to 3 minutes.
Okay.
I'm trying to be courteous.
So we have a lot of partnering. A couple quotes also I wanted to give you. One quote is, "The reading program gives order to our chaos. The backslide is not as noticeable and reading is not a chore. It's a prize incentive with positive reinforcement." This was our busiest summer, and we still made as much of a point to have our kids participate in as much as possible. One more is, thanks to your teen program, I made a very good friend. By following Story Walk,
Thank you,
my
ma'am.
child has learned to count to 7 at only 22 months old. So thank you for your support throughout the years, and I hope for the sake of the children, visitors, and the entire community, you can continue to provide the financial support. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next I have Cheryl Treeland, please.
Cheryl Treeland, Treeland Resorts and Lake Chippewa Lodge Resort Association. And just briefly, don't kill the golden goose. Tourism is here. It's been here since the turn of the century. And we have to keep supporting it here. If you read this week's headlines of the Sawyer County Record, you see what sales tax is doing. And a lot of that is basically coming from tourism, bringing people to this area. So thank you, and hope you keep it at the 50K. Thank you.
For the Hayward Lakes Visitor Bureau, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, next I have Matt Ostrander, please.
Matt Ostrander, 16026 West 4th Street, Hayward. I work for the Hayward Lakes Visitors and Convention Bureau, but I'm also on the board of the library. And in my job at the Hayward Visitor Center, I get a lot of questions. Some of them are easy, like what's a nice place to go for a short hike? Where can I see some local art? Where can I print something out or get copies made? Where can I access Wi-Fi for free? But some of the questions I get are a lot harder. I want to start a hobby, but I need information and help. I'm watching my grandkids this week and I don't know what to do with them. I just moved to town and I don't know much about the area. I need help finding out about who's running for office and how I vote. I'm trying to find a job, but I don't know where to look. I just got out of prison and I need to find resources. My house burned down. I lost everything and I don't know where to start. All the above questions are real questions that I got down at the office, and they often came from somebody without internet access, a computer, or even a smartphone. Fortunately, all these questions had the same answer. Can you guess what it was? Go to the library. They'll help you. If your mental image of the library is a room full of dusty books, then I guess you haven't been there in a while. Our libraries worked hard to respond to the changing needs and wishes of both our local and seasonal residents. It's not the same place it was 20 years ago. Heck, it's not the same place it was last year. Molly could tell you what each of the library's services and resources cost to provide. I'm not a numbers guy, but I can tell you as a guy who serves on the board and volunteers in the nature park that we are constantly scraping and pinching to make sure we get the most out of the taxpayer's dollar. There's no wiggle room in the library's budget. Budget cuts mean cuts to staff or services. We've been fortunate in the past to have the support of Sawyer County and its board. Please do what you can to keep this cornerstone of our community solidly in its place. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next I have Joey Johnson. Joey Johnson.
Joey Johnson, Director at the Senior Resource Center, 15110W West Spring Creek Road, Hayward. I'm here in support of our budget. First, I want to start out by saying thank you. Over the last few years, we have had a little increase or no increase due to different things. But I just want to give you an idea of what's been going on the last few years at the Senior Center. 2019 and 2020, the average cost to serve a meal at the Senior Center was $8.50. In 2020, that meal came to $10.55. In 2021, $10.55. 2022, that meal now today costs us $14.53 to make. From 2019, 2020 to 2021, there was a 24% increase in the cost of our meals. From 2021 to 2022, there's a 38% increase. And from 2020 to 2022, we're looking at this year a 71% increase in our food costs for the meals that we serve. And we ask for a suggested donation of $5 from our seniors that are 60 and over. People that are 59 and under have to pay the suggested price, it costs us to provide that meal. Right now, about 72% of our budget goes to provide those meals. In 2019, we served 33,335 meals. In 2020, the peak of COVID, we served 38,222 meals. 2021, as COVID started to decline, people were more apt to come out, weren't afraid of getting COVID. It was 33,452. Right now, we are at 25,834 meals. If we continue going the way we are with the trend we're having with the increase in meals, we're looking at least, if not exceeding 35,000 meals this year. And again, our food costs have increased 72% since 2019. Our weekly average cost for our food bill is almost $5,000 a week to serve the seniors that we serve in Hayward, Stone Lake, and the Winter and Excellent area. And their budgets run about 50% or more of the budget that we have allocated for them each year is about 50% of that budget is food and food only. We have been running since COVID started with 6 full-time staff and 2 part-time staff. That's countywide for all services. That includes administration. Right now, those people that cook your meals every day for our seniors is 3 full-time and 1 part-time person. So I want to say thank you for the increase that you've given us this year. It's greatly appreciated. It'll go a long ways. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. All right, next I have Karen Duffy, please.
God bless you. I'm Karen Duffy, 10544 Michigan Ave in Hayward, and I'm the president of the Board of Trustees for the Sherman and Ruth Weiss Community Library. The library believes that libraries are the heart of a strong community. We've truly appreciated the consistent financial support of the Sawyer County Board, and that helps our community library thrive. Your support has had a great impact on both county residents and then the outside visitors, of course, who use our valuable facility and resources. This is my second term as a library trustee. When I first served, we were located in the old Carnegie building, squished into small rooms with limited space. Then we opened our new building in 2007, and the area and the programs we offer enrich the community in so many ways. The library plays an important role in people's lives. Children attend the story hours, students conduct research, and adults find information and entertainment. A visitor will find a beautiful walking trail and a building that offers community space, a myriad of resources and literature, as well as computer time. And for many people, this is their only chance for such access. I'd like to take this opportunity to invite you to our building and grounds. Please come during business hours so you can see the patrons, checking out books and attending programs. You'll hear the buzz of story hour and the delight of the children. You can talk to our knowledgeable, friendly, and caring staff, some of whom are here tonight. Experience the space we have for relaxing and learning. And whether the building is open or not, you can walk the nature trail, you can admire the sculpture garden, and you can enjoy the colorful children's patio. I promise that you'll find peace and you'll appreciate the value of the wonderful Weiss Community Library. Now, the link between the county board and the library is strong, and everything works better when we're side by side. So the county board's financial support is an opportunity to keep and strengthen the vital services that we provide. Side by side, we can build a stronger community. So as you prepare the next budget, please think about the people who use the library and how it enhances all of our lives. Your legacy of care for the citizens and the visitors of Sawyer County is a great testament of your dedication to all of our people. Our library belongs to all of us. Let's work together. Together, we can continue to provide good things for everyone. Any cut to the funding would impact our ability to serve the residents and visitors who bring the prosperity to our community. Support for our library is really support for our people. Funding the library is a reflection of the goals and the values of Sawyer County. The library is Sawyer County's heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next I have Karen Malaseka, please.
Good
Name and
evening.
address, please.
Karen Meliseka, Namucog Transit, 14760 West County Road B, Hayward, Wisconsin.
Thank you.
I heard today we hadn't ever asked in 11 years that I've been here for a penny more from the county because we've always made do. I've done everything we can do to save for all those years. This is the first year I'm ever coming to you asking you for $25,000. And the reason it's really important to us is because the amount of local match that we receive from the LCO tribe and the county helps us leverage $1.4 million. So to you, being $175,000, you're gonna think that it allows us to achieve a much higher dollar amount because we are funded federally and the state, and they are local matching funds. They are leveraging funds. If I had come to the county and asked each year for $5,000, we'd be $60K to the above. But I've refrained from doing that. And it's come to a climax now, basically, because of the COVID increases and the economics in our country. Everything costs more. You pay for fuel for your vehicles. You can imagine the fuel that we're using. We are rerouting. We are putting more people in the vehicles at the same time. We are also initiating a fare increase to start in 2023. We do have a public hearing. I welcome you to come and attend. It will be on October 27th at 11 a.m. at the transit office. We're proposing to raise our rates, doing everything that we can do possible to get more funding to come into transit, because we can't keep up with the amount of the increases that we're undergoing in every aspect of our budget. I know you've done really good with your health insurance. Our health insurance still is going up. Every single thing is going up. So it's not just 25,000. It's actually a lot more when it comes to our budget. And we do work with the Senior Resource Center. We actually work together. And in Emma Coggin's part, we'll be transporting 50,000 trips in your jurisdiction over this current year. That's a lot of trips, helping folks to get to their jobs, get to medical appointments, get to their, just get even over to get to the senior center and to get to the library. We bring quite a few people all over. All these are constituents in your district, and they need us, and we need some funding for it. So thank you very much.
Yep.
And I have these, I'm gonna leave in the back of the room. Please take one, and please join us at the public hearing. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, next I have Durna Nucky, am I saying that right? I hope.
No, it's Donna.
Donna.
I have bad writing though. But usually people mess up my last name, so you got it right. I'm Donna Nucky. I live at 3416 W County Road W in Winter, and I'm the Winter Public Library Director. I'm here to share with you the importance of funding the Winter Public Library at the amount requested and what services we offer to the communities in the library that our library serves. Sawyer County has been very generous in funding libraries higher than the state minimum requirement. The total proposed budget for 2023 for winter was $98,506, which increased our budget just over 6% from last year. I have submitted a request to the county for $78,253, which is a 3.65% increase from last year's funding, which amounts to $2,788 increase for this year. Those funds will go towards the capital expenditures line item, as well as other increased expenses due to higher costs for services and products and wages increases. The library will be seeking additional funds to cover the rest of the increase from our budget, from donations, grants, and fundraisers. Our biggest financial challenge this year was our basement project. Last fall, I shared with the board, this very board, the issues that we were having with our basement and damage sustained because of a massive break of the lateral water line next to the library. In August of this year, the basement project was completed, and I want to assure you that the building, even though it's over 100 years old, is structurally sound and now free of mold. But the project cost us over $26,000, which did not include the expenses for the electrician and other unforeseen costs related to the project. But thankfully, the libraries present monthly at the UW Extension and Economic Development Committee, and Northwest Regional Planning Commission, who also reports to that committee, was able to help us secure a $26,000 0% interest loan, and it's similar to a block grant. However, the library board does not want to lean on the building and plans to pay this off, which we're increasing our fundraising and grant writing to try and do that. Libraries do more than just circulate materials, as you heard tonight. We offer services to full-time, part-time residents and tourists. In winter areas, cell phone carriers are an issue, as many tourists have connectivity issues because Verizon is not their carrier. So they tend to come to the library to connect to the Wi-Fi, to connect with family and do business. We know that bandwidth is also issues, as well as the ability to even secure internet services in some of our remote locations. We try to seek grants and other opportunities to help meet the connectivity needs. Winter Public Library is used by a variety of organizations and entities that meet with their clients. We offer a variety of programming and opportunities all year long. We have partnered with UW Extension and offer Strong Bodies classes for seniors in the library and assist in registering seniors that want to participate from home. We have summer programming of youth and adults and after-school programming during the year. A master gardener works with the 4th grade class and plants, maintains, and harvests the library garden. We have a 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program and also have a give back program called the Book Giving Tree, which begins next month.
Okay, Donna, we need to wrap up.
Okay, in which youth can request a book for Christmas and donations to the program, purchase the books for them. We constantly are seeking to add programming relevant for our community. Without the funding allocations from the county, this service and resource in the community would not be made possible for Southern Eastern Sawyer County taxpayers and visitors. We appreciate your continued support, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Now I know it's Donna. Okay. Next, Linda Zelmer, please.
Linda Zilmer, 902 Holly Hill Lane, Edgewater taxpayer. I hope you would allow me to ask a couple of questions and then preserve 3 minutes for comments. Appreciate the work that went into the presentation prior to the hearing, but I am looking at pages 28 and 29 of the PDF file for tonight's meeting. The title of page 28 says adjustment, and it's a requested fund balance draw. So at the start of the public hearing, your finance person mentioned that you have an $8 million expected fund balance, which is far above what your guidelines are. So I guess I would like to know if this, in addition to the balanced operating levy and the above the levy limit exemptions, if this is what the county will be acting on to use fund balance, because I see $10,000 for the Hayward Library, I see $20,000 for Nemacoggin Transit. So is this a decision that the board would be making that, although it's not in the operating levy or in the special levy limit, that you would be acting to consider to
I'll
pay?
have Mr. Markin address that when we're done, okay? But I have to keep you to 3 minutes, Linda, please.
I also see there that the $250,000 property liability insurance, which I thought was supposed to be moved to above the levy limit, one of the 6 exemptions, you're taking advantage now this time, the first year for the 5th one, but I do not see it in that page 29 under the special purpose levy. So is that a schedule that will need to be corrected? And I guess without being able to have a full 3 minutes for actual comment, I can't explain to new board members why the VCB should be decreasing their annual request and look to be able to support themselves, as well as the Sawyer County LCO EDC, because both those organizations have been advised throughout the years that funding to those entities was not to continue. They were supposed to be self-sustaining. The VCB through room tax, and I think a supplement for the county board would be for your finance person to maybe pull from the Department of Revenue website all the room tax that's collected. That information is available now. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Joan? Yep. You got it, Joan, thank you. State your name and address, ma'am, please.
Joan Jacobowski. I live at 7851N, County Road K. That's right outside Northwoods Beach. I've lived there 40 years. I'm a lifelong lover of libraries and user of libraries, and I'm asking you not to cut the library budget because libraries are so important to our quality of life up here, which is amazing, and which is why I live here. I'm from St. Paul, Minnesota, and we live here because of the quality of life. I live on Social Security now. I don't have the budget to buy all the books and the magazines and the movies that I can use through the library. My kids are long grown and flown, but when they were little, the library was a vital part of their education. We went there all the time. This library offers so much more than the libraries that I grew up with. And that nature trail, I don't know of any other library that has that. And what is it, Richard Louv. And what was his book? No Child Left. The whole idea is that being outside is really important to children's development. I'm an avid listener of National Public Radio, and because of that, I know that the number one indicator of a child's thing that a parent can do to help their child's development is reading to them. Who could afford to buy all those books personally? The library is an amazing resource for any parent. And yes, my children are, like I say, long grown and flown, but I still care as a taxpayer. I still care about the welfare of all the children who live here, and I want them to have the wonderful opportunities that they do now. Just tonight, on National Public Radio's evening news, they said that the number one, we're all under a lot more stress with COVID, and the number one way to relieve stress is reading. So the library is a vital, important part of my life. I hope it is of your life. Molly will be telling you how many people, I don't have any idea, but I know that every time I drive past the library, the parking lot is full. And I thank you for your funding, and I hope you continue it and don't cut it, because it's such a vital, important part of our lives up here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, I have Shirley Armstrong. Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Shirley Armstrong, 62184 North Morningside Lane, and I'm here on behalf of the Senior Resource Center. I've become their board president over the past year and have watched the staff work very hard to make meals for our seniors, and just want to ask again that you support us with the increase that we've asked this year, because we can see more people in our community that are getting older and are having a hard time getting around, going to be in need of our meals and our Meals on Wheels. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jenny Wergland. Did we pronounce that right?
Yeah.
All right.
Jenny Wergelin, 6544 West Railroad Avenue in Winter, Wisconsin. So I'm the secretary of the Winter Public Library and the board and the president of the Friends of the Library for Winter. And I have a unique view of behind the scenes because of these positions at a lot of the programs, events, and fundraiser that the Winter Public Library puts on each year. So the grants that Donna has obtained for the library, she touched on them a little bit today. She's gotten the NWLS collection grants, the Wisconsin Humanities Grant. That one helped us get a lot of PPE equipment and furniture, and the Wi-Fi expansion equipment. They've all helped us grow our audience and connect to our homebound seniors and our homebound patrons. The latest grant that she's getting, and we're going to be voting on it next month at our meeting, is the Emergency Connectivity Fund. It'll provide 2 Verizon hotspots that patrons in rural areas with sparse technology will be able to check out. This is huge, not only for our full-time community members, but we have a growing number of tourists and seasonal visitors that this was really going to support. The library has made a very conscious effort to become a community hub in winter. We might be small, but we're creating constantly new fundraising opportunities, supporting our local businesses by purchasing gift certificates that both encourage tourism and help our businesses advertise. July Jubilee, our annual 2-mile color run, is growing. This year we had 130 participants. And because of that, we've also found new ways to communicate using websites that are designed to make it easier to share and sign up. We do all this through our library. With a lot of these new ventures, we've also gotten new opportunities to help out at local events. This year we ran a food booth at Winterfest. It's an up-and-coming hip little music venue going on in the summers at Patty's on 70 in winter. It was a really great chance for us to meet some new people, get our name out there as a library, but it also gave us the opportunity to give back to a business that has supported us tremendously in our fundraising efforts over the years. anyways, we came at a really good time because obviously we had these unexpected costs of that basement project this year. So we had to get really creative with helping offset those costs. One of my personal favorites this year was bringing back the duck races. Any of you who have ever experienced small town life have probably heard about the duck races. 400 colorful plastic quackers floating down the Chippewa. It was very much a sight to see. It also was successful enough to help us pay for our first loan payment, so that was pretty cool. Of course, we encourage you guys all to come and join us too. We have a lot of fun out here. I know we're kind of far away and we're really tiny, but we have lots of stuff going on. Join us for Homespun Holidays coming up in November. It's not only a nostalgic event that features local artisans, but it holds our fall raffle that helps us offset a lot of these costs that we accrue over the years. So just wanted to take a moment to really support you guys for your time and your efforts in helping support us. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, next I have Hazel John Jack, please.
I'm Hazel John Jack. I live at 10855A Havenwood Lane right now, but my real home is in the township of Bass Lake on Wintergreen Lane. I'm speaking in regard to the library, and even though it maybe was something that, didn't seem real important to the person who saw that somebody wasn't going to contribute $10,000 again, but I think for me, looking at the larger picture, the library is what we need, like for understanding and healing in this community and in the larger world. When you're actually reading a book or watching a DVD, you can hear somebody else's life and understand them. And instead of those awful blurbs we hear on TV with one political party against another, making no sense at all and just being loud quacking sounds, the library presents a chance for us to communicate and understand fellow human beings and to understand our natural world better too, so that we take care of that community better. I worked at the Hayward Carnegie Library probably in 1971, 72 under Mrs. Smeads, and I don't think any of you are old enough to remember Mrs. Smeads at the library. I see one smile, maybe, but I think of what the libraries have meant, whether you were in the country like I was most of my life, or in the big city of Hayward now. We cut across boundaries. The LCO College Library, University Library, and the Hayward Library work so well together. Carol Paff gets grants to bring more Native American books to the various libraries in the area. The Hayward Library does everything they can to be of help when the LCO Library needs help. I think one of the most important things I learned when I did get to go to college on a good cranberry year was that there's different sorts of power. And in this country, often it's been who has the most ammunition, who has the most money, who is the right race for being in power. We have all of these things, but the real power I learned from a woman named Hannah Arendt. I think she was a Jewish refugee who came to the New School for Social Research. But anyway, she said there's communication power, communicative power, and that's what a library gives us, where we truly understand our neighbors, our larger community, and this is just a snide remark to end my more wide thing. The libraries have a nice women to men ratio too, but I think they often think of the larger community rather than the immediately what has to be done for the highway department or something.
Thank you.
So anyway, thank you.
Yep. Okay, next I have David Gold. David Gold.
I'm David Gold. I am at 10561 Gracielan Drive in Hayward, and I am a former volunteer for the Hayward Public Library and patron of many around the state and Illinois as well. The Hayward Public Library, as it existed before when it was on Main Street, was actually the start of my life and career as an adult citizen who was on disability back in 2007 or so. Actually, prior to that, because I helped set up the computers in the new building when it was just about to open. I want to point out that opportunities for low-income individuals as well as disabled individuals are a huge part of what libraries have to offer. So we talked a lot about internet access for any person, regardless of their background, regardless of their income status. We talked a lot about safe haven for kids and teens to do homework solo or collaboratively with monitoring from responsible adults, meeting spaces for any organization or club, access to newspapers, magazines, and anything else that can cost upwards of $50 per month, year, that low-income individuals cannot afford if they need access to it. They provide warmth in the winter and cool in the summer, which is especially vital for the elderly in our community. And if they are on low income, that can be a problem. Also, I mentioned the volunteer opportunities that can serve everyone and build resumes. Resources for filing taxes every year, assistance with genealogical research, access to historical information on your community. A lot of them offer Kelley Blue Books and other databases for buy and sell values on many assets and collectibles if you're looking to sell them and don't know how much they're worth. Now, with all this in mind, I'm just here to support the libraries in this community right now, and I would like to know where this, especially for the Hayward Community Library, this $10,000, where will it be going to provide assistance for low-income families, low-income individuals, if not to the library? And I know that we can't answer that right now, but that is something to come back to and something to really think about. I do know that the city has been of great support to our library organizations over the years, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. But I'm also grateful for the opportunities that I know many others in the community have been provided over the years for it.
Okay.
And
Wrap it
thank
up,
you
sir?
for your,
Yeah, thank you.
yes.
Okay, next I have James Yoakum. Oh, okay. Please do not decrease the library budget. Thank you, sir. Okay, next. That's good. Molly. Molly Jones, please.
I'm Molly Link Jones. Most of you know me. I'm at 10498 in Airport Road, and I'm the library director for the last 27 years. And first of all, I want to speak in support of Northern Waters Library Service. Sherry is trying to be online. I'm not sure she can at the moment. I wanted to say that she and her staff support 29 member libraries from 8 counties in northern Wisconsin. And Northern Waters does the following for all 29 and maybe 30 libraries. They apply for state and federal grants for our libraries. They provide an annual collection development grant. They pay for our membership in the Wisconsin Library Association. They provide the continuing education opportunities that we all need, similar to how teachers have to meet certification levels. They
serve as a consultant regarding library law and offer scholarship for directors to attend the Wisconsin Library Association's annual fall conference. And in the end, they allow the Winter and LCO and Hayward libraries to exist, as we must be part of a library system to meet state statutes. So I wanted to bring that up since Sherry isn't here in person. And then next, I want to thank you so much for the history of funding since 1995, our library. And it's amazing to me how we have changed over the years with your help. We have a public library that serves the community and visitors' needs, and use for books, audiobooks for long trips in the car. Ebooks are hugely popular right now. Movies, free 24/7 Wi-Fi, job hunting and homework help, genealogy and local history research, summer reading and community programs like the Halloween anime art class we held this past Tuesday that brought in 10 tweens and teens, which is really hard to do. We provide the library nature trail and story walk, where parents and children can read a story by walking the half-mile nature trail loop. For 2022, we requested $220,000. The increase from the previous 4 years was to help cover 2 principal areas: an increase in staff wages, because we have not been able to compete with local fast food restaurants and gas stations. The second main area
Okay, Molly,
was
we
for
gotta wrap it up,
capital
please.
building expenses. Am I close?
You are.
Okay. Actually, for 2023, we had hoped and anticipated that the same situation would occur that occurred last year. And we did have a donor couple come through at the last minute with $20,000. It could be referred to as a match. I was told at the finance committee meeting that the finance director recommended to cut the funding for $10,000 because we didn't have a match. We have an even bigger match. I just
all right.
ask that you restore the $210,000 to our funding. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Howard Gold, please. That's it.
Thank you. Howie Gold, 10561 Gressland Drive, Hayward. That was my son that spoke earlier. I promise you, when I woke up this morning, I did not know I was coming to this hearing, but I put this shirt on anyway. I taught high school English for 35 years, so I know the importance of libraries. When I was a teenager, I was brought to Hayward in '68 to go fishing. I was about 14, and I remember going to the library on Main Street and going to some arts presentations, and it was very important. It was very impressive. I enjoyed the old building, and the people were always helpful. As my son mentioned, when the new library opened, he helped set up the computers, some of the computers. My wife volunteered there. Before we had air conditioning in the summer, she would like to go there and read, get out of the heat. The first year we were here, in the winter it was 35 below, in the summer it was 105 degrees. But when I brought her up to Hayward after we met, she decided that's where we're gonna retire rather than someplace sane like California, Texas, or Florida, or Arizona. And we really love it here. We've been involved with the community. When our Wi-Fi had gone out when we first moved here, I know I went there and used the computers. I currently play pinochle there, as well as at the senior center, and cribbage at the senior center. I know I'm mixing some of the two. I've attended used book sales many years at the library and gotten lots of good stuff. Somebody had a baby shower there a few weeks ago. We moved out into the hallway to play pinochle and everything worked fine. I like looking at local artist displays behind the computers on the wall, which they change periodically. The taxidermy that's there. It's nice to see all the kids in the kids' room interacting. So I would encourage you not to cut the library budget by the $10,000 and to restore that, because it is very important. And I'd also like to add, I frequently have meals at the senior center and as I said, play cards there. The community that they offer is much appreciated through theater and music and health fairs and authors presentations and such over the years. So I support both the library and the senior center.
Thank you, Mr.
And I
Gold.
thank you for your funding and your time.
Thank you. Okay. Alex, anybody online for the public hearing on the 23 budget?
I don't have any hands up unless somebody pipes up.
Okay. If not, then that concludes our public hearing on the 2023 budget. I would like to entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Motion by Mr. Buckhold, second by Mr. Duffy, closing the 2023 public hearing budget. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I want to thank you everyone for your coming and your comments, please. Okay, number 8, 2023 budget discussion, possible action. Mr. Markren, can you come back to the podium, please? Can you start us off here with a timeline of where we're at with the 23 budget now? We've got one
Yes.
more round of committees to go through, correct? The Finance
Yep.
Committee.
We'll do
Back
finance
here.
committee in a couple weeks, and then we'll be back here to finalize the budget.
Okay. Mr. Alvarado, do you have anything you want to add to that? No. Okay. So, pleasure of the board. Mr. Weaver, can you turn your light on, sir?
I was just curious to the questions that Linda brought up. Were you able to write them down so you can address them for us?
I can address each of those.
Please.
Okay, thank you.
The fund balance draw is something we've talked about before. For 2022, there's a scheduled fund balance draw of 1.3 million. This one would be just over 1.6. I looked at the budget yesterday. We're about 80% through 2022. We're not going to need anywhere near the 1.3. May not need any at all. So it's a safeguard. We budget revenues conservatively. We budget expenses liberally, and it's just a safeguard for us. The insurance was brought up as well. It's not a special levy like libraries. It's more like the CIP, where it would be through a debt issue, then we do a short-term repay that. So we're working with bond counsel on how to do it. It's not something that's been taken advantage of very often in the past. Our bond counsel has never done it. There are other counties looking at doing it for this year, so everybody's kind of learning at the same time. And then the other thing that was brought up was the room tax. And in looking at the budget proposed by the Hayward Lakes Association, that room tax money goes directly into marketing. It's not helping defray any other costs. It goes right from the room tax to additional marketing.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Well, don't leave yet. We still got Mr. Betcher or Mr. Maestri. Did you have anything to add, folks?
Actually, I did have a question, maybe for clarification on the library funding, since that seems to be a huge discussion. I believe it's covered in Wisconsin statute. I don't know if it's chapter 43 or what, but it says we need to fund the library, public libraries in the county at 70% of their operating costs. And that number you gave out was 122,000 and something. So doing my simple math, that's 70% of approximately $175,000 of the library's operating costs. So I guess I'm not sure why or when we started funding the library at, 112, 113% of their operating costs. But we've been doing that for a while, it seems like, and there's a lot of, public opinion that says that that's, maybe not even enough. We need to fund them further than that. So I just want to get your thoughts, or if you have any background on why we have funded them at well above 100% of their operating costs.
You're asking me?
That's a very good question. We have,
Well, I've got about 3 months background,
Yeah.
so no, I do not know why it's been funded
Right.
beyond.
it has been a community request, though. Every year, the library wants to be funded, and they seem to verify that. Mr. Alvarado, do you have any comment on that?
I don't have any much more history than Mike does, and, looking back quite a few years, it's always, Mike prepared a kind of historical look, and it's always been funded above the statutory formula as far back as we could look.
That's true. Mr. Kinsley, do you have anything to add there? You're one of our veterans here, sir.
Yes, the Hayward Library always has discussion regarding how much we're funding them, and the board has always chosen to fund them at the higher request. And that's the board decision, and that's what we have done for probably 20 years, close to it anyway.
Okay. Mr. Maestri, did you?
No, I actually support Mr. Betcher's comment.
Okay. All right. So then it's, Mr. Markren, yes, sir.
Well, I just want to reiterate what I said last month at the meeting. Whether we spend more or spend less on the libraries, it doesn't help the overall budget at all, because that is a special levy outside of the limit. So if you said, well, let's go back down to the 122, we can't take that difference and apply it elsewhere. So,
Right.
And if you went up to the 210, it doesn't take away from anything else either.
But it would increase taxes.
Correct.
Correct. Thank you. Oh, yes,
I-
Mr. Rick.
That was my point. It would increase.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry. Ms. Hessel, did you have anything? Okay. All right. So we have one more round of committees, right? For this budget presentation, and any county board supervisors' comments, concerns, we'll bring it back here in November for approval.
Yep.
Andy?
Yeah, just, the finance committee will meet again.
Yep.
The budget you've been presented is the budget. As of right now, it's the administrative budget that's presented to the board. So if any changes to this budget would be by amendment at the November meeting. So ideally, and there are some things like, that we have on the agenda tonight that might change the budget, or could potentially change the budget. The intent would be to take them to the finance committee, prepare the amendment, and have that amendment ready for the board. So ideally, if there are any changes, please get them to the finance committee so they can draft an amendment or consider them, so we have that ready for the board. Because we do have some tight timelines where Mike has to prepare the apportionment sheet like the night of the board meeting to send to the state for next year's tax apportionment. So.
Okay. Finance, have anything to add to that, sir?
Move forward.
Okay. All right. Then we'll move on to number 9, public comment. I have one person signed up, Linda Zelmer, for public comment, please. You state your name, address, 3 minutes, ma'am.
Linda Zilmer, 902 Holly Hill Lane, Birchwood, Edgewater property taxpayer. And just to clarify that my question during the budget hearing, I don't think was answered. Number 1, is that list of adjustments to the fund balance where you will be proposing to pay the library $210,000, in essence, $200,000 in the levy and then $10,000 out of general fund? And then my question was on the property insurance, the $250,000 that's there, that was supposed to be one of the 5 exemptions you were going to use this year, yet it's not on that second page. So I know you can't answer me now, but I don't think maybe my question was understood. I wanted to make public comment about, as I understand, county supervisor positions, they're nonpartisan. And as you all know, even if you're new, that there's a lot to be working on just here in Sawyer County. And budget's one of them, ordinances are another. And I looked at the Price County newspaper today and saw several letters to the editor about things like resolutions that are coming before either local municipalities or county boards that really are matters that are not county jurisdiction or local jurisdiction. And while I understand resolutions, I think they should apply to the county business. And for instance, the county spent tens of thousands of dollars on legal counsel regarding putting a referendum question on the ballot for the exceeding the levy limits, primarily with regard to the second courthouse. That never went before the public. I mean, that's the kind of resolution that I would think the public would want to see, is your taxes are gonna go up for funding something, as opposed to whether it's carbon fee and dividend or election funding. So please, not just pick on this one resolution, but think about what resolutions are actually county business. And then also, I will speak more tomorrow at zoning, but I think there's a lot that needs fixing still within the zoning processes. And the Rogers Lake rezone that you'll see tonight, I don't think that should have been approved, but if nobody else is objecting, I suppose you'll pass it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Alex, anyone online for public comment? No? Okay. All right, moving on then. Number 10. Consider approval of our meeting minutes, September 15, 2022. Any edits, corrections, Mr. Duffy? Okay, motion by Mr. Duffy, second by Mr. Russ to approve our September 15, 2022 county board minutes as presented. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, number 11. Appointments, discussion, possible action. Mr. Alvarado, do you want to take this? I know one is you, sir, but we'll let you explain it.
Sure, the county belongs as a member of the Northwest Regional Economic Development Fund. Years ago, the county had a revolving loan fund to make loans to businesses. Probably about 10 years ago, those loan funds from all the counties were regionalized into one fund that's run out of the Planning Commission in Spooner. The county gets one appointment to that board, and they hear all the loan requests and manage the fund with the staff at the Planning Commission. Todd Knudsen was the prior representative. He retired from Johnson, and so they need another Sawyer County appointment. I've served on that board before, and it's been suggested.
You actually came highly recommended.
That's what I understand.
Yep, Mr. Kinsley. Motion by Mr. Kinsley, second.
I'll second that.
By Ms. Hessel, approving Mr. Andy Alvarado as our Northwest Regional Economic Development Board member. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Andy.
Thank you.
Number 2, Ethics Committee, Sawyer County Public Members.
Right. We've always had an ethics committee. Last month, we adopted a new ethics code of ethics. Still has a 5-member committee. At the reorganization meeting in April, the 3 county board members were appointed, but no public members. Shirley Armstrong and Marv Mullet have both been appointed prior. There hasn't been much activity there. I contacted both of them, and they both would be interested in continuing to be available for the ethics committee. So it's just reappointing them to that committee.
Okay. Mr. Rusk? Motion to approve. Mr. Schluter, second. Motion by Mr. Russ, second by Mr. Schluter, approving the Ethics Committee, Sawyer County Public Members Shirley Armstrong and Marv Mullet to the Ethics Committee. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Alvarado. Zoning Committee report, Mr. Buckholz. I know that Mr. Betcher asked that you.
Mr. Betcher is on virtual, but he asked me if I would do the chair report for him, and I don't believe Mr. Kozlowski's on.
He is.
Yes, he just joined. Okay, well, there he is. All right, thank you. The zoning committee held its monthly public hearing on September 16th. The zoning department continues to see above average land use permits, and there will be, by an end of the year summary, that will be distributed to the board in December. We have 4 conditional use permit requests in which the committee approved 2, and well, they got tabled on here, but I believe they were postponed. We also held a public hearing and voted on 2 rezones, request which the zoning committee is recommending for approval. And if there's no other questions, I will turn it over to Mr. Kozlowski.
Yes, Jay, you want to go ahead then with our first request, rezone?
Yes, thank you. Rezone number 22-011, owner Futurewood Corporation, under DJ Aderman as the agent, Tim Butterfield. This is located in the town of Sand Lake, northwest one quarter, the southwest one quarter, parcel 026-938-143201. It's 11 total acres, zone forestry 1. The remaining portion of the land is actually under the water. So this request here is to rezone all the forestry 1 F1 land that's above the lake elevation to RR1 to eventually create 2 or 3 separate lots. We heard in zoning committee that they're looking to make 2 separate lots. Again, the applicant has described the described property is requesting, and I may have misspoken, 17 acres of F1 to R1, 11 acres is under the water. This is the request is needed, is that the minimum acreage would be 5 acres with 300 feet of width. Thus, the zone district change is being requested. The town of Sand Lake comprehensive plan shows this area as future shoreland. Shoreland is defined by the town of Sand Lake comprehensive plan, still references the old lake classification system, which is no longer in effect. This property is located on Rogers Lake, which would have been classified as a wilderness body of water and would have required the 300 feet of width of water frontage. Again, the town comp plan only recognizes up to the class 3 system, which would have been a minimum density of 40,000 square feet of land acre area and 200 feet of frontage. Again, this property is zoned, the request to be rezoned to RR1 would then have a 100-foot width requirement and 200 feet of depth and could most likely fit 4. Again, we heard at the zoning committee meeting, their request is to have 2 separate lots. They are in the process of rebuilding 1 new dwelling out there right now, and then they would be replacing an existing dwelling that was demolished last October. There were 4 opinion letters sent out to adjacent property owners. All 4 were returned with objections and read into record. The town of Sand Lake heard the request on September 12th and voted for approval. The Sawyer County Zoning Committee heard the request on September 16th and after a lengthy discussion, recommended approval of a vote of 5-0.
Okay.
That is all.
Mr. Betcher? Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I saw your hand up.
Yeah,
sir.
could I make a motion to approve that?
You can, sir. Okay, I got a motion by Mr. Betcher, Ms. Hessel.
I'll second that.
Yep. Motion by Mr. Betcher, second by Ms. Hessel to approve the resolution in case number 22-011, amending the Sawyer County official zoning map. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Jay, letter C.
Yes, moving on, this is rezone number 22-013, Daniel Dean and Julie Ostrander. This is in the northwest one quarter, the southwest one quarter, section 22, township 37 north, range 6 west. Parcel ID, tax ID number 19273. This is 40 total acres, zone forestry 1. Purpose of the request is to rezone the entire 40 acres of forestry 1 to agricultural 2. This is to allow a lesser dimensional requirement to take place. The applicants had purchased a modular dwelling and would like to locate it on the property. Within the Sawyer County zoning ordinance, the A2 agricultural 2 dimensional requirements would have a minimum width and length requirement of 14 feet, where the F1 zone district would have a minimum width and length for a dwelling of 20 feet. And that is why the zone district change is being requested. Again, this still remains within our zoning ordinance, and that AG1 and AG2 zone districts would allow more for those double wide trailers, which was initially intended for agricultural farmland help. Again, that is the case that we have here in front of us. The A2 zone district was chosen is that the land immediately to the south of this area is already zoned A2, and that other surrounding area is light agricultural and light forestry. The town of Meadowbrook comprehensive plan shows this area as rural preservation with the primary intent to protect existing farming and forestry operations and not to encroach by other incompatible uses. There were 4 opinion letters sent out, 1 returned with no objections and read into record. The town of Meadowbrook approved the request on September 21st, 2022 at the Sawyer County Zoning Committee meeting. it was recommended to vote of approval of 5-0 to the Sawyer County Board of Supervisors. That was
Thank
all.
you, Jay. Ms. Hessel?
I'll make a motion to approve rezone 22-013.
Mr. Buckholz?
I second that motion.
Thank you, sir. Motion by Ms. Hessel, second by Mr. Buckholz, approving the resolution, case number 22-013, amending the Sawyer County official zoning map. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do you have anything further to add, Mr. Buckholz, from zoning? Okay, Mr. Betcher, anything else to add, sir?
Just that our next meeting is tomorrow, but unfortunately, it looks like I will not be able to attend even virtually. So Mr. Buckholz will be chairing that meeting, and Mr. Righammer will be filling in as an alternate.
Thank you, sir. All right, moving on then to number 13, Public Safety Committee Chair Report. Mr. Buckholz.
All right, Mr. Chairman. The Sheriff's Department report, Communication Center report, a written report was provided by Chief Sedera and provided an update on staffing, which everybody knows that the Sheriff's Department is in need of employees and they need help. Patrol report from Lieutenant Rapinski reported there was an increase in calls for service, and highlights of his report. A jail report was provided showing an average of 90 inmates last month. Jail staffing and compensation, is that anywhere else on the agenda? Okay, I won't go into that. Communication specialist report. Sheriff Morotek reported that the simulcast system is up and running in process of being tweaked. Reception does seem to improve throughout the county. Code enforcement specialist, Mr. Blitchert, reported that he received funding for a scholarship for the animal control course. He advised that the license fees will increase from $8 to $10 for altered dogs, and the daily kennel fee will increase from $20 to $20 a day from $10 a day. He began working more with zoning and public health code enforcement. Child Support Department, a written report was provided. Child Support MOU with DCF and LCO. The LCO attorney reported on a MOU that they have been editing the current MOU plan and will bring it back to the public safety in the November's meeting. Coroner's report was written by, provided by Mr. Fremmel, as he advised he has some open investigations going on, and also emergency management department reports. Mr. Fremmel reported that the department is doing a lot of training, and as are most of the requested training sites in northern Wisconsin. There are currently no lapses in coverage, and the grants that Mr. Dunstan had applied for have had a high award rate. Some of these funds will be used for training. That ends my report.
Okay, and it looks like we have an action item here, Mr. Alvarado, addressing jail staffing and compensation, sir. It's actually a resolution, Andy.
Like Mr. Buckholz said, we've all been aware of the jail staffing issues. And so this motions in the Public Safety and Finance Committee this last month resulted in this resolution being put together. We had really two issues we're trying to address. One is that we are short-staffed. At this point, all our female prisoners have been shipped out to Barron County, and all of our male prisoners have been brought back because we are short female jailers. So we have open shifts. So one of the things we've implemented is a $60 shift premium to fill these vacant shifts. One of the reasons probably that we've accelerated some staff openings is that once we've had some openings, people get ordered in and they just are overworked, and we've lost a couple of people because of that fact alone. So we wanted to put some type of incentive in place to help with the existing staff to fill those shifts. And then in order to retain and attract employees, we reviewed the wages. I think that's one element of it. That's not the only thing. But looking at jails in the region, jail staff in the region, we were $1 to $1.50 below the average just in the starting wage. So this resolution proposes an increase of to $22.38. And what this really does is these are the increases we had anticipated coming the first of the year, moves it up till now so we can start advertising it and bringing people hopefully in under those wages and adjusting the other staff accordingly. From a budget impact, we're already having a significant budget impact because of the short staffing and overtime and shipping people out. New hires don't start at this wage. They start at 90% through their training. So new hires really won't get this wage till almost the first of the year anyway. And yeah, that's the two things this resolution covers, is the wage adjustment and the stipend.
And this also went through finance, correct,
Yes.
sir?
Public
Was
safety and
approved at
finance. Yes.
Ms. Hessel,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the jail staffing and compensation resolution.
Mr. Righeimer?
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Ms. Hessel, second by Mr. Righeimer, approving the resolution that addresses jail staffing and compensation as described by Mr. Alvarado. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Andy, for that. Thank you, Mr. Buckholz. Okay, number 14, Public Works Committee Chair Report. Mr. Kinsley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the Highway Department, we're working on an ordinance. We're gonna continue to work on the ordinance till we think we get it right. It's on the agenda for next month also. Thank you. Maintenance is doing a wonderful job. They're working with the remodeling of the second courtroom is constant. And they've also worked on the Oasis building, let alone keeping up the rest of the regular work that they do. At the airport, we're working on having a contract for cleaning snow off the runway during snowstorms, and that seems to be a constant battle, but we seem to get through it. Update on the county departments of relocation. Mr. Alvarado was going to be shuffling some positions around, some rooms around as he sees fit to get done. And Northwest Counseling Guidance Center is down at the Oasis building. We renewed their contract for 1 year. We reviewed the budget and is presented here today.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions, concerns for Public Works? All right, if not, then we'll move on to number 15, Land, Water, Forest, Resource Committee. Mr. Betcher or Mr. Peters?
I can take it, but I might have to ask for Mr. Peters or Mr. Besnett or somebody else to jump in if I skip anything, because I was not in attendance at this meeting. But there were 3 pockets treated for oak wilt. The DNR denied the request for the drawdown on Nelson Lake that we talked about last month. The Brunei Dam project is on schedule, but once the water level was drawn down, we noticed that there was significantly more damage to the dam than we had anticipated. So we could be incurring some additional costs for that, more to follow. And we're continuing with the negotiations for the carbon credit. And item 15B, which is for discussion of possible action, we have the consider forest land purchase proposal. I don't know if Greg is here.
Yeah,
or if
he's
not, I can
here,
talk about
Jesse.
it.
Greg, you want to come to the podium, please, sir? Well, he's coming up here. Mr. Peters or Mr. Bissonette, do you have anything to add to the Land, Water, Forestry report? No? Brian?
Just to my recollection, the other thing that we talked about were the Sawyer County crop prices, as well as the 2022 damage assessment deadlines.
Okay. Crop damage, you said?
Do you want a little bit more information?
Sure, sure, if you got it there.
Okay. Basically what we did was we got the recommendation, the proposal for Sawyer County. Now this comes out of the USDA. Corn was at $6.46 a bushel. Soybeans $14.11 per bushel, and cranberries $45.01 per bushel. And so we move to approve that.
Okay, thank you. All right, Greg,
Okay.
you're here with the forest land purchase proposal,
Yep.
correct, sir?
That is right. You have before you a proposal to purchase 2 parcels of property owned by Richard and Denise Cooper, totaling 84.16 acres. One of the tasks that's outlined in our 15-year comprehensive land use plan is an attempt to consolidate our forest land holdings on our forest blocks. If you take a look at the map that's attached with this proposal, you know, if you looked at the entire county forest, this particular 80 really pops out as a real target for us to consolidate our holdings. For those of you that have been on the board for a period of time, I believe we started working on this property probably in 2009. We additionally tried to purchase the parcel at that point, and negotiations fell apart. Since that time, we've had 2 different land trade proposals to acquire at least the easternmost 40 of this parcel. This piece is located about 3/4 of a mile north of Hatchery Creek Park. If you look on the map, basically every recreational trail that we have on the county forest bends its way around this parcel. So and that's all jammed into a 1/4 mile stretch. So we have our single track bike trails, we have the Berkey Trail, and the snowmobile and ATV trails. And on top of that, we still have to have access for timber sale management. So this is a very valuable parcel that we've been after for quite some time. The asking price is $3,750 per acre for a total value of $315,600. The amount of traffic that we are getting at the park is just increasing exponentially. With the COVID shutdown, the impacts there have gotten huge. And we have developments going in Rosie's Field that I think in time we're just going to see more and more pressure in this area of county forest. And we have a really great opportunity to try to consolidate our block to provide a little bit more space for timber management and our huge recreation base.
Greg, and this has been passed by Land, Water, and Finance, is that correct?
Correct.
And Andy, what is the funding source?
We're proposing in the resolution to apply for a state trust fund loan. Part of the purchase agreement is not just the purchase price that we close it by the end of the year. So state trust fund loan, we can't even close by the end of the year. It's the most flexible financing source. We could decide, like Mike mentioned, as part of the capital improvement plan, to roll that into the bond issue next year for anything from the courthouse. We could refinance the state trust fund loan at that time if we choose. If we have a surplus of money at the end of this year, we could pay off that loan as well if we so choose.
Wonderful. Mr. Duffy?
I move we approve the purchase.
Okay, Ms. Hessel?
I second that.
Motion by Mr. Duffy, second by Ms. Hessel, approving the purchase, the land purchase proposal along with the resolution. Is there any further discussion? Resolution is authorizing the purchase of county forest land. Mr. Schluter?
I have a comment.
Yep, be right with you.
You said we're going to apply for a state loan. What if we don't get it? We use these other sources?
It's a terminology. We apply for it. We'll bring back the loan paperwork to next month's meeting for approval.
Oh,
Mr. Betcher?
Yeah, I just want to point out that, you know, this price per acre is a little bit high. And if this was anywhere else, like on the periphery of the forest or in some other remote location, then I would not recommend the purchase. But because of this location, how it's already surrounded by county land and the importance of it and how we've had to reroute so many trails around this 84 acres. And as Greg said, we've been trying to buy it now for, I think, 13 years. So I strongly am going to be in favor of approving this purchase.
Okay, thank you. I got a motion by Mr. Duffy, second by Ms. Hessel, approving the purchase and the resolution authorizing the purchasing of county forest land. Andy?
Maybe the one thing that Mr. Slater reminded me of is that we didn't include it in the resolution because didn't want to complicate things, but we do intend to apply for a stewardship grant to fund up to half of the appraised value of it. But we can't apply for that for next year, and that's not a certainty that we would get. But that is the intention.
Okay. Okay. So, everyone understands the motion? Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Chairman?
Ms. Hessel, yes, ma'am.
Point of order, did we skip on Public Works Committee the item C for the ATV UTV ordinance markup?
That was pulled from the agenda.
Oh, okay, it was still on mine, sorry.
But we did skip the courthouse remodeling, correct? Okay.
Yep, okay.
Thank
All
you
right,
very
thank
much.
you. Yep, thank you, Greg. Appreciate it. Okay, number 16, Health and Human Services Board Chair Report. Mr. Schleter, please.
Okay, thank you. Health and Human Services met on October 11th. The recruiter liaison report was done by Mr. Schuman, filling in quite a few things happening in the tribal reservation, especially a new clinic, which is very much needed. One action issue here is the resolution for the annual 8521 grant. That was presented by Joy Johnson. I believe this is for the bus for the Sawyer County Senior Resource Center. Do you want to chime in here on the resolution, Mr. Alvarado?
Just that I think you see this annually. The county sponsors the application. It's flow-through money that comes from the DOT to the county to Senior Resource for the transportation for the bus.
Okay,
Do you want to move on that now?
we could. So this is up for motion. Resolution authorizing Sawyer County DOT grant application. Mr. Rusk?
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, motion by Mr. Rusk. Marshall, you?
Can I second that?
Oh, Mr. Betcher, second. Thank you. Motion by Mr. Rusk, second by Mr. Betcher, approving the resolution authorizing Sawyer County DOT grant application. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Schleter.
The next item on the agenda was the rest of the report from Sawyer County Senior Resource Center. And as you heard tonight, they are having some real issues trying to keep up with purchasing food and getting the food delivered on time and the quantities and the different types of food available. And people in our community obviously are facing the added pressure of inflation. So when it comes to going to the Senior Resource Center, the donations drop. I mean, we can raise the requested donation and raise it again and raise it again, but people are only going to put in money that they have available for that. But we'll keep trying. There's one more resolution in here. Mr. Alvarado, I am going to ask you for help with this one, the 161 agreement, because I'm not completely on top of that one.
Sure, we have a 161 agreement. I couldn't tell you the significance outside of that's the state code that addresses it. It's between ourselves and LCO related to child placements, protective placements, foster care, that type of thing. So we are in the middle of re-upping or renegotiating that agreement. Currently, we're waiting the changes from LCO, and then we'll have our attorney look at it, but have it back at the Human Services Committee next month.
Okay. I apologize. I could have talked about what it is. I was trying to get you to talk about what you did at the end there. Yeah, thank you. We had reports from all the departments, even the economic department, and while nobody was willing to commit themselves, it appears that we may come out either a little under or a little over somewhere in the Health and Human Services budget this year. So that concludes that report.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on then, number 17, Economic Development, UW Extension Committee Chair Report. Mr. Righeimer.
It's my first time doing this, so it's exciting.
Okay.
All right, we met and University of Wisconsin Extension Department report. A written report was provided by Ms. Baltrusis, and their highlights were reviewed. A Real Colors workshop is being provided to county employees. I think that's a wonderful idea. I understand those types of education opportunities, if you will. I think it'll help grease communication amongst county employees who take advantage of that. A Parents Forever class is also scheduled, and the Heart of the North Conference is scheduled for February. The Hayward Lakes Visitors and Convention Bureau report, a written report was provided. The Northwest Regional Planning Commission, Mr. Pearson, Chair of the Heart of the North, reported that they are planning the February event highlighting the changes to take place. A Safer Streets grant has been applied for by a group in the area entities to receive money for safer streets analysis. The Main Street Bounce Back program is still underway for $10,000 grant funds. And Mr. Alvarado has been nominated to the board for one of the loan programs pending for Sawyer County approval, which I think was approved tonight.
Correct.
The Economic Development Report, the annual report was provided by Ms. Johnson, new president of the Sawyer, she's the new president of the Sawyer County LCO Economic Development, and they shared their plans with the organization for the upcoming year. They intend to focus on workforce readiness with area youth. It was good to have them there. That'll be a big help to what we're striving to do from an economic development standpoint. Library updates were given. You heard a little bit about some of that tonight, 2 hotspots in the winter library. Motorized, non-motorized trail report was given, provided by Ms. LaRue, advised that trail traffic is constant, including a lot of families. 3 additional traffic counters have been installed, and the stats will be provided next month, and snowmobile clubs are getting ready for their season. That ends my first report.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Righeimer. Any questions for economic development? All right. Moving on then, number 18, Finance Committee Chair Report. Mr. Kinsley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee also was told about the jailing staff compensation, which was approved, which you already have done also. The forest land purchase was talked about, which was approved, and we reviewed the 2023 budget. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything for finance? Thank you, Mr. Kinsley. 19, Administration Committee. Andy, we have a resolution advisory referendum, correct, sir?
Correct. You want me to explain that a little bit?
Please.
So this resolution, pre some amendments, came to the county board, was sponsored for the county board agenda a couple months ago. It did not receive the 2/3 vote to be brought on the floor, so it gets assigned to a committee. The chair assigned this to the administration committee. They've had a couple months to review it and make some amendments to it. I don't have a copy of those amendments, but they're sending it back to the board now for consideration.
And it was approved at administration,
Yes,
correct?
excuse me, approved administration.
Okay, Mr. Righeimer, I know that you had authored this, and were there some amendments here? Are you ready to make a motion, sir?
Yes, sir. I will make a motion that we accept this advisory referendum.
Okay. Mr. Schluter, you have your light on, sir.
I'll second
Ms.
that.
Hessel, sorry. Okay, motion by Mr. Righeimer, second by Ms. Hessel, approving the resolution for advisory referendum regarding private funding of election administration. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on then to County Administrator's Report. Mr. Alvarado.
I don't have too much of a detailed report to provide you because a lot of what I've been working on is the budget, the resolutions for the jail and addressing the jail shortage. The sheriff and I are good buddies now. And no, we're in frequent communication, really trying to work through the things that come up on a daily basis, as well as the forest land acquisition. I will update you on the courthouse construction. I think maybe a couple months ago I said things were on schedule and we were gonna get the parking lot back before winter, and it doesn't take long to fall a little bit behind, and then all of a sudden there's snow on the ground and things aren't looking so good. So at this point, if you drive by during the day, you can see that the footprint is really well established. On the east side, you can see where the boardroom will be. They've got that pretty well blocked in, and the iron's going up so they can put the trusses on. They think, I don't know, they might went up today for all I know, or tomorrow or Monday. So look at, really working hard now to get it enclosed so they can continue to work inside when the weather really turns on a permanent basis. We will not be getting the parking lot back before winter. There's just too much need for the storage. We have spent a fair amount of time, as Mr. Kinsley knows, having angst over the parking lot, because now that we see how it's gonna look, it's gonna be a lot tighter, I think, than we anticipated, just what looks on paper. When you look at it now, as far as having 2 rows of parking and be able to pull in there, because the sidewalk, where the sidewalk is now, the parking is gonna be pushed in a little bit from that, and then you've got where the new building is going is coming in from the other direction. So it's gonna be, there'll still be parking on both sides, but I think and we looked at all the options to not have it be so tight, but the pretty cost prohibitive at this point to start relocating parking lights, and there are some setback requirements from power lines, that type of thing. So, but we've been paying attention to that. From a budget standpoint, there's been no major surprises. Our contingency fund is still healthy. We've probably utilized about 2/3 of it at this point. And really, in most projects, if you're gonna find some large surprises, they're gonna be when the groundwork's being done or when the building's getting enclosed and tied into the existing building. So at this point, it does appear we're sitting all right for that. And then things to look forward to, probably hopefully at next month's meeting. Like Mr. Betcher said, we're working on the carbon credit proposal to bring back to the board, Muni Code to bring that back to the board as well, and then the ATV, UTV ordinance. Gary and I have talked about that in preparation for the committee meetings. So those things are all coming down the road here.
What about the opioid money?
We got,
Mr. Alvarado?
we received the second installment of the opioid money today. It's another 21,000. So that money is sitting in the account. CJCC is working on some recommendations. Public Health did a nice presentation to them this past month. They've been doing a lot of the legwork locally to determine what our gaps are for addressing the opioid issue, whether it's treatment or aftercare or mental health issues. So I think, we're, at one point it felt like it was a rush to get those decisions made, but the state is planning the state has their opioid money and they are not rolling that out yet because they're still trying to determine how they're going to make those funds available. The counties association is working on some resources as well, and they're still putting those things together. So I think we still have some time. There's no deadline on when we have to utilize those funds, but I think it's slowly coming together for what will be recommended to the board to pursue for those funds.
And you said that the carbon credits are moving forward, meaning we're still pursuing that, and there's.
Yes, we have we've negotiated the marketing agreement for the credits. Do not have that complete. The committee discussed it this last month, sent some things back to try to change the agreement. And so hopefully we get that done and have that for the November meeting.
Okay. Any questions, concerns for Andy? Mr. Betcher, Mr. Maestri, any questions for Andy?
No, thank you.
No, I'm good. Just a reminder though, a lot of that carbon credit stuff, I know people are curious about, but a lot of it is being conducted in closed session until we can finalize some stuff, but we're working hard on it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, 21, correspondence, reports, conferences, meetings, Mr. Kinsley.
I just want to remind all the board members, as we go into the meetings in November, and the county board meeting is in a different night, but think about the employees that we have. They're exiting quite fast. We need to stop that. And how are you gonna stop that? Think about that when you're doing the budget. Just want to share that because it's very important to me to keep our employees the best we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hessel?
I just had a question. Can you remind me, the Sawyer County doesn't fund the Sawyer County ATV and UTV Alliance at all, correct? So is that part of the Hayward Lakes funding? Is that what they give to? I mean, I've thought that was in our reports in finance and economic development, that part of that money that they get goes to marketing that. You don't have any.
I can say in general that the Hayward Lakes markets the trails, but I don't believe there's any, I know our money going to Hayward Lakes, there's no contractual obligations for them to share it with the Trail Alliance.
Okay. Is there anything else? Mr. Duffy?
In response to Ron's comments on our employees who are leaving, we should have a chance to look at the exit interviews we have. And we haven't seen those. It'd be nice to know, why are they leaving, this many? And is it only money? Is it other problems? Is it part of our administration or what? But I'd like to see them. So if those aren't in writing, somebody should summarize them. Why are they leaving?
Thank you. Mr. Weaver?
Yeah, I would also mention that a person asked me about, they applied for a job with the Sheriff's Department back in September and have not heard from Human Resources at all as of yet. And I just wonder if our onboarding process is way too long for someone to realistically expect.
Okay, thank you. All right, if nothing else, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.